While we were living in Alaska, Holly and I, and some of the kids, toward the end of COVID, Julia and Heidi, the two kids living with us at the time, took a trip to Valdez, Alaska. Right on the way, just south of Fort Greely, you can see the Alaska Pipeline, along with a lot of other beautiful views. Just about anywhere you go in Alaska, you can count on beautiful scenery. I've probably got multiple gigabytes, dozens and dozens of gigabytes, just because there was so much beauty, so many things I want to take pictures of and videos of. And here's just some of that. Again, this is between Fairbanks and Valdez, Alaska. So this, we would be south of Fort Greely at this point. As you get closer to Valdez, you get closer or more into the mountains. More water. Well, there's water everywhere. On the way down, though, amidst this beauty, you'll start seeing glaciers. And this was August when we went, so most of the snow has melted, and a lot more water, running water, I think, because of the snow melt. But you see there's a big glacier there. As you get closer to Valdez, there's what's called Worthington Glacier, which is this right here. And you can hike up to this. They say this is the most accessible glacier in Alaska. So there is a good parking area, restrooms, and an overlook. Then you go around that overlook and you can hike nearly up to that glacier. Probably a little dangerous going up to the flow, the glacier flow there, but you can get up to parts of the glacier frozen up there that you can actually touch. So you hike right up there in that crevice in between the ridges. Again, you can get up to the flow, but you can get this far easily. You can touch this part of the glacier, which is really, really neat. How many people have touched the glacier? So we had the opportunity. Everybody didn't go. Heidi and Holly didn't want to make that trip. It was about a mile hike, moderate. It wasn't too strenuous. But Julia and I hiked up there, and you see the water flow again. It was September. Things were melting. But it was Julia and I who made the hike up there this first trip while Heidi and Holly waited for us. There's a glacier in the background. How often do you get to do that? So on the way back down, again, you see the other way, and the beauty from the other direction, the flowing water, the mountains, the snow on top. And then the lower you get, the more vegetation you see, just like anywhere. But it was just beautiful. Driving on down from Worthington Glacier, get into the Valdez area, and the beauty continues. You go through the mountains, getting to Valdez. There's running water everywhere, streams and waterfalls, just multiple beautiful scenes. Here's one of the neat waterfalls that came down just alongside the road. There's a pull-off to this one, because I guess it is a great Kodak moment to be able to get pictures here of this waterfall. So driving on into Valdez, is a small town, not a big town, but it's a quaint, a nice little town. So down into Valdez proper. We stayed the night in a little hotel down here.
The next day.
Next morning, in town, we got something to eat, but we went out to Allison Point, which is an area. There's a fish hatchery on the way to that. But Allison Point, a body of water where you see a lot of eagles because there's a lot of fish, but there's a lot of wildlife. We saw sea lions out here as well. If you're trying to capture them on film, I got some here on video, which is kind of neat. And keep watching just a minute. There's a salmon, I think that was, jumped out of the water in front of the sea lions. But Heidi and Holly wanted to catch some salmon. They didn't want to just buy salmon, they wanted to catch some. So they spent some time while Julia and I watched the scenery, which was beautiful. Here's another sea lion. Now this was tremendously zoomed. He was way out there in the water. The sea lion's doing what they do. I'm not sure what he's smelling for, watching for, but there he is. But just the views there from Allison Point, as the fog began to lift, we began to see more of the mountains, more of the beauty of where we were. Back into town, there's a lot of things to see. It's a historical town as well, but a lot of views as we go in and out of town from Allison Point and back to town. Here's some more views that we'll see. It's just beautiful. I probably took too many pictures, probably included too many pictures in this video, but you can just see it's breathtaking, the beauty. There was quite a bit of wildlife down here as well. Well, let's go back to the fishing. They did get a little help from people who fish more often than they did, but they were able to catch, I think they got 4, we'll see here in just a second, 4 salmon. I can't remember what kind of salmon that was, but we took that into town and had it processed while we were there visiting, had it frozen, deep freezed, ready for us to bring back with us. So on the way back from Allison Point, just some more beautiful views. There's a waterfall on the right side, almost back to the salmon hatchery. There's a bear. There were a lot of bears around there. They warn you about the bears. Doesn't he look so cuddly when I go up and just cuddle with them? But they just seem to abide. You know, humans are there. Oh well. Back into town, the girls went back to the hotel and rested. Holly and I went to the Valdez Museum. It's a neat little museum about Valdez history, a lot of things there about the history of Valdez, about the people there before it became the United States, some of the early residents there, because it was a port town, so there was a lot of activity there early on. This is a neat little museum. It's worth, I think it was a donation, or it may have cost, it wasn't very much. So back out, there's a park in town, or right around town, not far from town, which here's the view from the pavilion. There's a picnic pavilion there, but there's a little hiking trail too that just goes around in a loop and takes you over to the other side of that outcropping there on the left with the trees, which we took that hike after we took in these views here, but we took the hike that went through the woods, but provided some views along the way. I believe this is part of the views on the hike. And it wasn't too bad. It was like 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles. It wasn't very long. And you can see it's a gravel pathway. It's not strenuous at all. But some of the views from the other side, just so much to see there. And there you can see the trail. It's a little small but easy. But we picnicked once we got back from the hike, the pavilion there at that park where the trail was. And the views, again, what a beautiful place to sit and enjoy nature, to enjoy God's creation. We went into town, closer into town. There's a little park, and there's water everywhere. And like I said, there's eagles everywhere. So I'm zooming in. I got this new camera. I was having fun with it. So across the body of water, you saw how far that was, and you can see up there at the top of the tree, you can see an eagle just sitting there. See if I can get him. Yep, there's the eagle. We called it a night.
The next day,
then back into town, there's another little trail. Now this one was up on a hill. It's called the Overlook Trail. So you get a good view of town because you're up a bit higher. A good view of just the area. Again, it's in town, so you see town on most of the views from there. But it's really nice because you see just how it's nestled there in the water. There's the bay and the mountains all around. So that was a fun little hike. And then we went down, well, this is part of the trail. It's again, not a difficult trail. It goes uphill a bit, but it's an easy trail to hike. But coming back down, enjoying the beauty, but there's, I think, a school or something there beside that. So there was a place to rest there on these rockers. But we walked on down there, closer into town to the bay. A lot of fishing boats and other boats there. A lot of fishing that obviously takes place there. A lot of salmon fishing, especially. Here's one of the fishing boats. But we just took some time to enjoy the scenery and sitting at the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll in. I think that's what happened. Anyway, more scenery there along the way as we traveled back out to Allison Point again. I believe. Nope, we were going out to a trail. As we were going here, there's just some more views that we got to see on the way. This next trail we did, it was Goat Trail was the name of it. This was built by, there we are getting ready to hike out on Goat Trail. It was a little rainy. But this was built by the Army trying to get a path that was too dangerous to go over the glacier, so they created a path to the interior from the port of Valdez without having to go over the glaciers. And this Goat Trail was part of that. But now it's a beautiful hiking trail. It wore me out. there's a lot of uphill. You can see the trail. It's not bad, not a lot of climbing in that, but there's some hills up and down. But it provides a lot of beautiful views. So a lot of it through the woods. So it's just the benefit of the hike. But then a lot of places, beautiful views to peek through. A lot of really neat things to see. And it's fun just getting out with the family and hiking anyway. But then the views just make it all that much nicer. Views that you don't see in a lot of places. But in and out of the woods just helped to cool us down as we were hiking. So you get up to the peak of this, or the very top of it, and there's this body of water, some fast-flowing water. There used to be a bridge up here. Somehow that got destroyed. I don't remember the story about that, but you used to be able to go across this bridge, and you could continue the trail on the other side, go back down to the other side, come down on the other side. You can see there over Holly's shoulder the remains of that bridge. But that bridge not being there, you just come back down the trail that you hiked up. Again, and this is right along a ledge here. I think we'll look over the ledge in just a second. So, but it's not a dangerous trail at all. It's not too strenuous. It's a goat trail. It's a great trail to see some views and get out and hike. And here we are still, just on the way back down. Now, back down. We went back into town. We went to a restaurant. I always look up fun places to eat. We went to the Fat Mermaid. So this isn't, I wouldn't call it a 5-star restaurant, but it's a fun restaurant. Food was good. Again, not a 5-star restaurant, but good enough to eat at, and it's a fun place to eat. And it's right there by the docks, right by you see all the slips for the boats. And then outside of town, there's a hollow tree that's just begging for pictures to be taken by. As we traveled around, we saw more bears. It seems like there were bears everywhere, which could be the explanation for why they would have signs like this to beware of the bears. They're not cute and cuddly, but they're neat to take pictures of. So as evening approached, just more beautiful views. I think it was back out at Allison Point, but anywhere you go, you got this beauty. It is at Allison Point. We went back out there. Here's another shot of the sea lion and a bird, whale, I believe that is. Not whale, but you can identify that. I'm not a bird expert, but it's cool just to see the wildlife. They seem to mind each other at all. In fact, I think some of the birds would hang around to get the remnants of what they left behind or something like that. Here's another shot, another eagle. There were eagles everywhere. Alaska has a lot of eagles. You can see them in a lot of places, which is neat, seeing them in the wild. You can go to the zoo and see them. Seeing them in the wild is just really neat. I probably got more pictures than I needed to of the eagles, but here they are. And this is again coming back from Allison Point. There's a lot of water there. I think this one, just watching things going on. This one doesn't fly. A little bit later we'll see one that flies away. Just the majesty of the bald eagle as it flies. But then coming back again from Allison Point, right off the road there was a little body of water. We saw another bear. But what's cool, I videoed this bear. I mean, he kept watching him. We were a stone's throw, a stone's toss from this bear. He'd occasionally look up at us people on the road watching him. And I was ready to dart back to my car. You never know what these guys are going to do, I guess. But just watch this video. It's like a National Geographic, but I videoed that with my video camera. But there he is looking at us, wondering if we're as tasty as the fish he's looking for. But keep watching here. There he goes. He got him a fish. And then he takes it away. So that was pretty cool to see. To see that, a bear hunting and well, not hunting, but fishing and catching a fish right there in front of us. Here's another eagle out there. Now this one's going to take off and fly in just a minute. They're beautiful, beautiful birds. Obviously, look at that wingspan. So maybe this isn't the one that flies, but he shows us his ability to fly with those wings. But again, this is on the road to Allison Point. So a lot of beauty there to see animals, and there's one flying. That may be the same one. A lot of things to see on that road out to Allison Point, and a lot of great scenes as well as the wildlife. And there's there's the fish hatcheries out there. Kind of neat to see as well. So we just did a lot of sightseeing, a lot of hiking that day. That second day that we were in Valdez. And we went back, got something to eat, went back to the hotel, and rested.
Approximately 10 hours later.
And the next morning, we started on our way back, and there's a railroad tunnel built in 1905 for the railroad, obviously, to travel through the mountains before they cut it out for the highway. Everybody didn't want to go in there. It was dark as you approach. It looks like, but it's dark as you approach. Julie and I were the only ones who went all the way to the other side of that tunnel, so it was kind of neat. So on the road back, just a lot to see. Now remember, this was September, and there was a place in the shade where there was still snow that we could get to in September. But we're at higher elevations, we're in Alaska. On the way back, you can see more glaciers. We did stop again at Worthington Glacier because Holly and Heidi decided they were going to hike it. And I forgot to get gas before we left Valdez, and we wouldn't have made it to the next gas station. So I dropped them off, and the three of them, Julia, Heidi, and Holly, hiked up to Worthington Glacier. They got to see it up close as well. So then the trip back, just more beautiful scenes between Fairbanks and Valdez. Valdez is a nice town, a nice place to visit. And there's that glacier again. Highly recommended if you're in Alaska. Make sure you stop at Valdez, whether it's by sea or by land. It's close enough to drive from Anchorage or from Fairbanks. It's a fun location. So here's still at Worthington Glacier. The girls were here again, like I said. And I'm pretty sure Heidi hiked up there with them. Yeah, they must have, because Heidi took this picture of Julia and Holly up there on the way to or back to the glacier. Now on the way back, moose are as common as deer are down here. Moose in Alaska are common as deer down here. So you see them all over the place. Where we lived on post, they would come on post. So you see moose a lot, but for us from the lower 48, they're unusual. It's neat to see, and when you see one like this that you can get pictures of, you always stop and get the pictures. This was one of the last things we saw as we headed back to Fairbanks. So this has been Valdez, Alaska. With Holly and Daryl and Julia and Heidi on this trip. Beautiful place to go. A lot of beautiful sights to see in Valdez, Alaska. With Holly and Daryl.